Let's talk about theories of punishment. There are 4 major theories of punishment: deterrence, incapacitation, retribution, and rehabilitation. In the American justice system, we tend to focus on the first 3, and the most commonly used punishment is jail, prison time, or fines. The hope of these punishments is that they will act as a deterrent against the criminal committing crimes in the future, and also as a deterrent to the population at large against people committing crimes in the first place. Putting someone into jail or prison is a way to incapacitate them, meaning that now that they are separated from society, they are not able to commit crimes during that time. Retribution is based on the concept of someone must pay a price for the crime that they committed against someone else. So it comes from the idea of an eye for an eye. If you have caused this person pain, then you in turn must be caused pain. Rehabilitation is a very different concept. Rehabilitation focuses on healing the criminal, addressing their underlying emotional, psychological, physical needs that may have led to the crime in the first place, and helping them get to a place where they can re-enter society and live a crime-free life. Recidivism is the act of a criminal who has been held accountable for a crime, then committing the crime again. It can refer both to this criminal committing any crime again, or it can refer to them committing the same crime again. Measuring recidivism is one way to measure the success of the justice system. When someone is charged with a crime, that charge goes onto their criminal record. That is now public, that anyone can see, and unfortunately, that does affect a person's life a great deal. It can affect their job opportunities, their housing opportunities. It might even affect whether or not they can get loans. In some cases, someone's criminal record can be expunged. Expungement is the process of sealing the record from public view. So the court still has a record of that charge and or conviction, but when it is expunged, it is no longer visible to the public. Unfortunately, at the moment, I know in Minnesota that sex crimes are not eligible for expungement. After someone has been convicted of a crime, it is the judge who determines what the sentence will be. Back in the 70s in Minnesota, sentencing guidelines were created to help make sentencing for felony crimes more uniform. Judges are expected to abide by the guidelines. However, they are allowed to give sentences that are outside of the boundaries of the guidelines. When they do so, this is called a downward departure or upward departure. Downward departure meaning that the sentence is below the minimum sentence of the guidelines, and upward departure meaning that the sentence is above the maximum sentence for the guidelines. Judges usually have to give a written justification for departing from the guidelines. What is kind of an interesting piece of history is that Minnesota was the first state to implement a sentencing guideline structure. The guidelines are determined by the Minnesota Sentencing Guidelines Commission. The commission is now a 13-member body that is made up of the Chief Justice of the Minnesota Supreme Court, or a designee, a judge from the Court of Appeals, a district court judge, a public defender, a county attorney, the Commissioner of Corrections or designee, a peace officer, a probation or parole officer, and 3 members from the general public, one of whom must be a victim of a felony crime. It also includes a seat for a treatment or rehabilitative service provider for individuals convicted of felony offenses, and a seat for an academic with a background in criminal justice and corrections. In addition, one of the public members must have been convicted and discharged from a felony level sentence. In recent decades, we have seen a tendency for felony level sentences getting longer and longer. This is especially true in the case of sex crimes. There has been this tough on crime mentality, and the idea is that harsher prison sentences will be a greater deterrent from people committing these crimes in the first place. Okay, so I need to touch on the topics of restorative justice and diversion, because these will come up later in my discussions about justice reform for sexual assault cases. Diversion is a kind of alternate justice to the traditional justice system. Instead of going to trial, the case gets diverted away from the traditional court process. Diversion can happen at several different points in the justice process. It can be done before a charge is ever filed. It can be done after charge and before a plea bargain, or it can be done after a guilty plea. Diversion is often very beneficial to the defendant because it offers him a way to be accountable for his crime without having a conviction permanently on his record and without going to jail or prison. During diversion, the offender is expected to take full accountability for his crime. He takes measures to repair the harm done to both the victim and the community. Diversion programs sometimes do use restorative justice circles, but they don't have to. The offender repairs harm through personal growth activities, such as going to counseling, therapy, taking an educational class, writing an apology letter to the victim, or performing community service. When diversion is completed pre-charge, charges for the crime are never filed. It is considered by the justice system that justice has been served for that case. When diversion is completed after a guilty plea, then the conviction and charge for that crime are expunged. Up until this point, diversion has mostly been used for low-level crimes, shoplifting, drug crimes. Though there have been some pilot programs using diversion for sexual assault cases, at this time it is not widely used for sexual assault. Restorative justice is oftentimes considered a paradigm of justice that is incompatible with our traditional justice system. Later on, I will explain why I disagree with that, but for now I just want to introduce the concept. Restorative justice stems from Native American practices. Its focus is not on punishing the offender, but on seeing to the needs of the victim and the community. It is about repairing the harm that was done by the crime. The offender must take accountability for the crime in order for restorative justice to work. A restorative justice conference is guided by a trained facilitator who brings together both the offender and the victim, if the victim chooses to participate, and community members as well. Community members could just be volunteers, but they are sometimes family or friends of the offender or victim. All parties are prepared by the facilitator before being brought together in a conference. During the conference, the offender has the opportunity to take accountability for the harm that was done. The victim has an opportunity to express what harm was done to them. Community members get the opportunity to express how the crime affected them. The victim is given the opportunity to ask questions of the offender. A very common question is, why did you do it? What were you thinking? Do you care about the harm that you caused me? The offender has the opportunity to express any underlying causes of what might have led up to the crime. Sometimes it might even be things like that he was having a hard time in his life because he was in pain, because he was struggling with something. Restorative justice gives the offender and victim an opportunity to empathize with each other, an opportunity to hear each other's stories. It gives the offender an opportunity to express remorse, and ultimately it gives the two parties an opportunity to forgive. During restorative justice, the victim is believed completely. It's not about establishing guilt or innocence. It's about the offender taking accountability and repairing harm. Restorative justice is incredibly powerful. Unfortunately, there are many in the justice system who view it as less than, or as maybe soft on crime, or as the offender getting off easy. But I don't see it as that at all. Restorative justice is justice. It is incredibly powerful and effective. At bringing together the community, seeing to the victim's wounds, and helping the offender to grow from this experience. It is my hope that in the future, restorative justice will be an option at any point in the justice system, or that our justice system will become more restorative.